But like many business people, what they're often worried about is the cost. And the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, which is a bipartisan outfit, put out some predictions the other day. If you add up all the promises you've made, and your plans would add $7.5 trillion to the debt. That's more than twice the total for Vice President Harris. You're on course to push up debt up to 150% of GDP. This is a very business-like audience. Why should they trust you with that?
Trump's mic didn't work for the first few seconds of his answer to the Economic Club of Chicago's questions about his disastrous economic plan. But once supporters heard what he had to say, they probably wished his mic would have never kicked in.
We're going to bring the companies back. We're going to lower taxes still further for companies that are going to make their product in the USA. We're going to protect those companies with strong tariffs, because I'm a believer in tariffs. I'm not sure that you are. I don't think you are, but I congratulate you on your career. But to me, the most beautiful word in the dictionary is tariff, and it's my favorite word. If I run this country, if I'm going to be president of this country, I'm going to put a 100, 200, 2,000% tariff. They're not going to sell one car into the United States.
That kind of ridiculous proposal works at rallies and on Newsmax, but now that Trump is actually speaking to people that know what a tariff is, we got a chance to see how badly he responds to the hard-hitting questions he's never asked. Like, how the hell does that make any sense?
No, you talked a lot about tariffs. You look at the American economy, 40 million jobs rely on trade. It accounts for 27% of GDP.
Okay.
If you cut that off, that's also going to have an effect on many, many business people here.
Yeah.
Tariffs also have another side. Isn't that something that you have to acknowledge?
No.
You could be plunging America into the biggest trade war since Smoot-Hawley.
But there are no tariffs.
You're going to stop. There are tariffs already at the moment.
There are no tariffs. All you have to do is build your plant in the United States, and you don't have any tariffs.
People, a lot of places like this, there are a lot of jobs that rely on foreigners coming here. You're going to basically stop trade with China. You're talking about 60% on that, 60% tariffs on that. You're talking, as you said, 100, 200% on things you don't really like. You're also talking about 10, 20% tariffs on the rest of the world. That is going to have a serious effect on the overall economy. And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive in terms of the economy.
I agree it's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
the tariff, you make it so high, so horrible, so obnoxious that they'll come right away.
In a true MAGA form, he thought that simply saying they'll be massively positive was somehow an explanation of how they'd have some positive effects. And when that didn't work, it was time to simply insult the interviewer, claiming he's a failure, as if Trump himself isn't known for screwing up countless business ventures throughout his life.
President Trump, the issue the markets are looking at the fact you are making all these promises. Latest one was car loans. You're flooding the thing with giving giveaways.
But we're going to grow.
I was actually quite kind to you. I used $7 trillion. The upper estimate is 15 trillion. People like the Wall Street Journal, who's hardly a communist organization,
yeah, but you don't know.
They have criticized you on this as well. You are running up enormous debts.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about it.
You're trying to turn this. You're trying to turn this.
You've been wrong about it.
No, you're trying to turn this into debate. There are business people.
But you're wrong. You've been wrong. You've been wrong all your life on this stuff.
It's like trying to have an information-based conversation with a toddler that hasn't gotten his Lunchables yet and is getting pretty testy about it.
What about consumers, people out there?
They're going to be the biggest beneficiaries.
Yeah, critics say your tariffs will end up being like a national sales tax.
Nope. The countries will pay.
If you have America at the moment has $3 trillion worth of imports, you're going to add tariffs to every single one of them. That is going to push up the cost for all those people who want to buy foreign goods.
No. What's going to happen?
Simple mathematics, President Trump.
It's not. Yeah, it is, but not the way you figure it. I was always very good at mathematics.
At the New York Economic Club, you said that if you lost the dollar as a reserve currency, it would be like America losing a war.
Yeah.
You look at what you're going to do in terms of protectionism, drive countries to use the other currencies, and all that debt is also going to lessen the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency.
If
Do you worry about that?
The dollar is so secure, your reserve currency is the strongest it'll ever be.
Man, this is embarrassing. It's just empty promise on top of empty promise. His plan is that everything will work out fine because he's the one that would implement a more extreme version of tariffs than anyone else has ever had. Throughout his discussion, the former president changed subjects over and over again, attacked his political enemies on completely unrelated topics when he couldn't come up with a reasoned answer, and consistently made it personal. We don't have to review, again, the countless number of economists and people that pay attention to history and how things work to dispel Trump's obvious detachment from reality on these tariffs. Remember, he spoke to the Economic Club of New York a couple months ago about how tariffs will pay for childcare, with no hint of how that would work.
Can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that, because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country.
What he told us is that childcare expenses are no big deal. The fact that you're drowning in debt because of them, sorry, but not sorry. And he also told us that, no, I don't have any ideas or a proposal or legislation, and it's insulting. And it's insulting to parents who are constantly having to choose between funding their daycare and feeding their kids.
There's no way he even knew that childcare costs were even an issue for many Americans, let alone what those costs are or how tariffs would somehow translate into affecting them. No clue at all. It might be why he placed the 12 or 15 supporters or staff members into the audience in Chicago to have it look like someone's buying the ignorance that he's selling, because it wasn't going over well in New York.
Onslaught at lower prices. I'm pledging today that in my second term, we will eliminate a minimum of 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. We'll be able to do that quite easily, actually. And instead of attacking industries of the future, we will embrace them, including making America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin. Fourth, at the suggestion of